The inaugural speech by Dr. Naneshwar Muley. Let me introduce him first. Mr. Naneshwar Muley is an Indian diplomat who superannuated after 35 years of service, was then appointed by the President of India as the member of National Human Rights Commission in 2019. He joined the Indian Air Force in 1993. He joined Indian Foreign Service in 1993 and has since served in several capacities, including Consul General of India in New York, High Commissioner of India in Maldives, and Secretary to Ministry of External Affairs and Overseas Indian Affairs. He was successfully organized the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas at Varanasi in 2019 as Secretary of Ministry of External Affairs, and which was acclaimed by the Prime Minister of India and then External Affairs Minister Srimati late Sushma Swaraj. He is a successful writer and has written over 15 books, which has been translated into Arabic, Urdu, Hindi, Kannada, and Dwehi. His magnum opus, Mathi, Pang, and Agash, written in Marathi, has received immense popularity and also been prescribed in the arts curriculum in the North Maharashtra University, Jalgaon, Maharashtra. He has inspired a number of social educational projects, including Balodayan, an orphanage in his native village of Kolhapur, and Dr. Naneshwar Muley Education Society in Pune, which seeks to introduce innovative concepts like global education. Let us welcome Dr. Muley to inaugurate this webinar.
Yeah, okay. Good morning, everybody. I hope all of you are in good spirits despite the COVID pandemic and the difficult times. So Dr. Suresh Kumar, MD of Seagull, Mr. Abdul Jalil, Global CEO of Seagull, other expert panels from various sectors, experts from ILO and other international national organizations, and dear friends. Well, today, I think in the history of our modern world, there was never a period that was so strange, so unpredictable, and perhaps so devastating. At least you are in my generation has not seen this kind of a disturbance in our own lifetime. What is more interesting and important and disturbing also at the same time, as even today, we know where the world is heading and where it's going to really end. And that is really a situation of immense challenge for all of us. As you rightly say in your paper, unexpected and unprecedented forced hibernation. That's the right word. But at the same time, hibernation is not so disturbing. This is a very, very disturbing hibernation. The trends that you see throughout the world today are, economically speaking, extremely disturbing. So much so that it is said that this period will be defined differently from now on. It will be called TBC, will be before Corona and after Corona. Those will be the new terms that the world might see from now on. You might see a contraction of economy by almost 3% globally. It is going to have tremendous impact on every sector, whether it is education, health. The world GDP is going as per the IMF predictions, at least 2.5% to 3%. Whether it is India or China, Germany or France, all the major economies of the world are going to have a major, major setback. So far as the jobs are concerned, it is said that the 65% of the jobs that are available today will not be available tomorrow. And unfortunately, the 65% jobs that are available in future will not be available today. That's a very disturbing thing, because we have to perhaps see the entire overhauling of the recruitment, not only the recruitment scene, but the entire employment scene and business scene throughout the world. Not even in 1929 Great Depression or 2008, 2009, the modern kind of a slowdown that we saw, the impact was so severe and so widespread spread and so touching every aspect of life. It is said that in US alone 36 million people have joined or applied for what they call unemployment benefit. This is since the beginning of the COVID. The contraction that is expected will be something like this: UK will be 6.2%, Germany will be 7%, US will be 5.9%, Japan 5.5%, France 7.2%, Italy 9.1%, and Japan 8%. In advanced economies, it is expected to be minus 6%, developing economies by minus 1%, and worldwide between 2.2 to 3%. China's GDP in the first quarter is down by 36.6% and South Korea by 5.5%. What it means is we will have major disturbances in almost uh, every segment and every sector, whether it is shipping, supply, demand, and there have been some good news from the government, but we've not been able to actually analyze them properly. Those are the packages, whether in US, European countries, or in India. All the countries have declared packages. Japan also has declared. Now, what we really don't know is, can the recruitment industry also claim a share of this package? And if yes, in what form? And can you not really represent, considering that this particular recruitment segment represents the interest of almost 8 million, if not 10 to 12 million, those who are spread globally, 8 million in Gulf alone, but also about 3 to 4 million people that are, spread elsewhere in the country. So can this dialogue, to me, is of utter importance. And here the Recruitment Agents Association, MEA, and in terms of data, the international organizations can come in picture and help, because we have certain challenges staring into our eyes right now. The hiring, as you said correctly, both Mr. Jalil as well as Mr. Suresh Kumar, worldwide is going to be very slow to pick up. And even then, when it is picked up, when it actually picks up, the packages, salary, and the compensation will be much, much lower. Expect huge cut of jobs. Already there has been tremendous cut in jobs all over the world, but this trend might continue for a while. So the economists are saying that the time has come for reimagining the global division of labor and international economic architecture. Now, this is not something in the hands of recruitment agents. I know we just, this community is one of the cogs in the whole scenario. But there also will have to be country-wise as well as a global level rehabilitation plan of the economy, just one that happened, similar to one that happened after the Second World War. The end of hyper-globalization might be over, and there would be more nationalistic trends that you might say. As it is, there was a lot of pressure within Gulf countries for indigenization, domestic jobs, emphasis on domestic jobs, whether it is Saudi Arabia or elsewhere in Oman. You see these trends are becoming more and more prominent. So added to that, if you have COVID, then the impact would be rather severe. And more importantly, the future jobs that were to come after 5 years or 10 years, which also meant cut in the manpower through AI, through robotics, or through other other mechanics, those are going to be advanced. What was supposed to come after 5 to 7 years might be advanced, and that will also further affect the recruitment of manpower, as as we know, in the conventional sense of the term. And unfortunately, developing countries will suffer more than the developed countries because they have a better absorption capacity. But it is not that they will be, escaping the tragedy that we are going to face. Broken relationships between the supply and demand side. You all must be already facing cancellation of contracts, not filling in a certain contract. Understand the future trends, where the jobs are coming, what is happening to the incomplete projects, construction sites. So these are all, I call them broken relationships, and the time they are going to take to heal or to recover is also an important factor. Now, what do we do? I think the first and foremost job for all of us is to collect data of the losses, in every which manner. How much jobs we have lost, how much in terms of India has lost in terms of remittances, how much, disruption, psychological, cost and trauma that people are facing, the cost to the economy when these people are not recruited and they don't go abroad. See, if we are averaging about 3 to 5 lakhs, what is the cost to the Indian economy in terms of having them here? This also needs to be accounted for. So you will have to work out a little more on the data side, because we are poor in data. There will have to be more consultation between MEA, the recruitment agents, and other stakeholders, including Department Ministry of Labor, as well as the international organizations. I would also suggest that there has to be a strengthening of both Doha process as well as Colombo process, because unless in my own understanding, there will be more regulations that are likely to come. There will be more regulation, there will be more protocols, whether it is for the health side, whether it is for the skill side, whether it is in terms of minimum wages. There are likely to be more regulations that will be chipped in. Just as in 9/11, after 9/11, the security protocol throughout the world was changed. We should also hope similarly for a different protocol altogether after the COVID crisis is over. As I said, Colombo process and Doha process strengthening will be very, very important. We'll have to see what do we do about the minimum wages prescribed by, OIA, or Government of India. How does the e-migrate become a helpful tool in this crisis to aid, to sort of ameliorate the situation, bring better understanding, and build better dialogue. And lastly, I would say we'll have to work closely with the local governments and the state governments apart from the central government. The problem doesn't necessarily lie with MEA alone. The problems lie in all these original places where the labor labor is originated. So those states, those local places are equally crisis on your hands. So that will have to be done. Last but not the least, Suresh Kumar ji touched upon the uh, markets elsewhere. I think that is one area which can be really reinvigorated, because I don't think we have looked at this segment in a systematic manner, and in a manner which facilitates and does extra regulation or over regulation, so that people can go more easily, not only the skilled ones, but semi-skilled, unskilled, etc., etc., etc. Some headway has been made, but no effective lead has been taken by either the government or the recruitment agency organizations. They have not prepared a strategy document as to how this can be taken forward. Japan alone needs 500,000 people in the next 10 years. Are we not going to go? We are going with a figure of 27 this year, next year 58. That is not adequate. What I think is revamping of our own approaches to the global recruitment process would be an inevitable outcome of this entire process. So with these words, I wish this particular conference a wonderful outcome. And I also hope that this current crisis that we are facing, is over as soon as possible, and we actually see the dawn of a new and positive and optimistic and bright era. Thank you so very much, particularly Dr. Suresh Kumar and Mr. Jalil, for your inviting me to this particular webinar. Thank you so much. And since I have another webinar lined up, I would request you to excuse me after a few minutes of this presentation. Thank you and best of luck. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, sir, for your in-depth and insightful speech. As you well said that actually we need to see the new horizons. And many new countries are coming up with like Romania, Poland, Japan, Kazakhstan, Russia, and African countries. As I said that actually MEA has signed a bilateral agreement with certain European countries. And we should focus on that. Once again, thank you for sparing your valuable time and giving a insightful speech to the fraternity.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Seagull International Human Resource Consultants. Bridging the gap between dream and reality.